Hello everyone and welcome to the 8th webinar in the Open Discovery Space series. Today's webinar is entitled The ODS Project and How Metadata is Involved in It. This webinar introduces the concept of metadata with a special focus on metadata to describe learning resources and in particular the Learning Object Metadata Standard. Today's speaker is David Martín Moncunil from University of Alcalá. He is a researcher at University of Alcalá and has been involved in several European projects. Currently, he is coordinating tasks of University of Alcalá in ODS Working Package 6. Now I hand it over to David, who is going to start with his presentation. David, please go ahead.
So, hello, welcome to everyone. As Roberto has said, this course is mostly about metadata for learning resources and its implication in ODS, and is mostly oriented for content providers interested in ODS, also for teachers, and of course to anyone interested in describing learning resources. Okay, so I think that this lecture will take about more or less 1 hour, and now I'm going to share my screen with all of you. Just tell me if you have any problems. Screen share. So here it is. Hope every one of you can see my screen right now. Let's start. Here is the index. We are going to start talking a little bit about metadata. I have called this part Metadata 101. Then we will talk about digital learning resources, about digital learning objects and metadata. Then we're going to talk a little bit about IEEE LOM, which is the standard for describing learning objects using metadata. Then about application profiles and of course the ODS application profile. And we will end this module previewing our next lecture, okay, our next module. Probably you know that this is part of this webinar is part of the work that we are doing in the Content Providers Learning Academy inside the ODS portal. So if you want to take a look and download these slides, you can just go to the portal and join the Content Providers Academy and download them. Okay. So metadata 101. The first question could be, what is metadata? And metadata is data about data. Just that. And we can discern between the structural metadata, which is the design and specification, data about the containers of data, and descriptive metadata, which are individual instances of application data, the data content. Okay, it's a very old concept. We have been using it from a long time ago. Metadata were and are traditionally found in the card catalogs of libraries, and here we can see something like a catalog. And in the digital era of information, we use digital metadata. And we use metadata to describe digital data using metadata standards specific to a particular discipline. Here we can find how does digital era card catalogs look like. Okay, probably you won't understand anything about what you are seeing right now, but don't worry. Okay, we at the end of this lecture, hopefully you will more or less understand everything. So let's start with a real-life example to understand what metadata does, what is useful for. Okay, so here we have a girl who is called Christina, and Christina is trying to do his homework, and her homework. And her homework for today, it's writing about the benefits of eating oranges. So she goes to her preferred search engine, and says, okay, please look for the benefits of eating oranges. And then she got this result about orange highlighters. And well, she gets some kind of upset, but the search engine is working properly, because here you can find the word orange and also the word school, and the search engine has understood that he has to list this search result here. So Christina then says, okay, let's search, let's try with orange, school, and homework to make a further search. And well, he is not lucky either, and tries with different words like advantages of, he tries to look about the advantages of eating oranges, and put there the word advantage, eat oranges, and once again he got some strange results. Okay, of course this is not the typical situation, but that's what can happen when you look for resources using a search engine which is based in searching for text, only text, not the meaning. So Christina finally decides to go to Wikipedia to end her homework. What is happening here is that the system does not know the difference between orange, the word orange as color, or the word orange as fruit. But if we find a way to specify, to tell to our system that orange could be a color or could be a fruit, and to tell the system, okay, we are looking for orange, but orange as a fruit, which means using metadata, then the system will be able to understand and to produce better results. And that's the main use of metadata. Okay, and we have semantic metadata, which is about the meaning, and ontologic metadata, which is the conceptual scheme related to a particular domain. Another good example could be how to translate the Spanish word gato to English, because gato in Spanish could mean cat, the animal, or jack, the tool. So if the system knows that the context is related to animals, it is easy to know and to produce good results. Okay, next topic is about digital learning resources. A learning object is a collection of content items, practice items, and assessment items that are combined based on a single learning objective. They provide smaller self-contained and reusable units of learning. They are also known as educational objects or knowledge bits, knowledge objects. Okay, you have a list of terms there which are similar, okay, have the same meaning. About what's learning objects metadata. Learning objects metadata is the data model used to describe digital resources. The objective of this learning object metadata is to support the reusability of learning objects, ID discoverability, and facilitate their interoperability. They are very useful in the context of online learning management systems and also in educational content repositories as ODS. This could be an example of a learning object, which is called Monster Score. It's a real learning object, and this series of learning objects allow students to explore patterning using visual and auditory elements, and to create patterns, extend patterns, and create equivalent patterns and complete patterns. So this is our learning object, and this is an example of how the metadata for this learning object will look like. And here you can see that it starts with the word LOM, which is learning object metadata, and some words like monster core, which is, and here title, educational game. Okay, you don't have to understand everything here, but you can see, I want you to notice that the information is here. Information about the title, information about the catalog entry, also about the language of the resource, and also about the description. Okay. And next topic is about IEEE LOM, which is the standard, as I said, for defining learning object metadata. Just wait a minute because I have to change my screen. Something strange has happened in my computer right now. Wait, just a second. Okay, now it's working, sorry. So, this standard was made by the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers Standard Association and is internationally recognized open standard for the description of learning objects. Some relevant attributes of learning objects to be described include the type of object, the author, the owner, the terms of distribution, format, a lot of pedagogical attributes such as teaching or interaction style. The main features of these standards are, well, first of all, it's useful for digital and also for non-digital resources. And it has a conceptual data schema, which is hierarchical and divided in nine categories. It could be used in different multicultural and lingual contexts, and it's also extendable by the use of application profiles, as the ODS application profile. From now on, we are going to see these 9 different categories, and we are going to talk a little bit of every one. In future lectures, we are going deeper on this metadata standard, but just to present them and provide a couple of examples, okay? So, the 9 categories, well, here we have in this first slide, we have the 5 first categories, which are general, which is general information about the learning object, life cycle, which is about the story and current state of the learning object, metadata, which is information about the metadata itself. I know this sounds hard, but it's not so much. Technical, about technical requirements and characteristics, educational and pedagogic characteristics, and there's also about information about rights, about intellectual property rights, and also about copyright. Relation, which is about relationships between learning objects. Annotations, which are comments on educational use. And finally, information about the classification systems. Don't panic, because from now on, we are going to take a look to every of these parts of the learning object metadata. And here you have an overview of all the contents inside the profile. It's a schematic representation of the hierarchy of elements in the LOM data model. So here you can see general, life cycle, metadata, technical, classification, and all the different parts of the data model we have seen. So let's start from the first one, which was structure general. And in structure general, we can find information about the identifier, which is a catalog entry, which is usually internal. Okay, it depends on your institution. You put a catalog entry there. The title, the language of the resource, the description, keywords, coverage, the structure, and the aggregation level. Let me say that the title could be in different languages. Okay, you can have a title in English, a title in Spanish, a title in French, for instance, and the language is information about the language of the learning resource itself. Okay, so some fields as title or as description or as keywords could be in different languages. Okay, if you have any questions, you can use Google Hangouts and write there whatever you have in mind, and I will try to answer it as soon as possible. Okay. So here we have an example of how the general part of the LOM metadata look like. And here you can see in the code that we have a label here which says LOM general, then we have LOM identifier, then next we have LOM catalog. Okay, I am not going very deep on these aspects. I will not show you in this webinar how to code this information. There are really good tutorials about how to do these kind of things in freely available in internet. I just want you to understand what we are doing here. And well, it's quite easy if you speak English. It's quite easy to realize what is happening here, even if you don't understand code, even if you don't have any knowledge about XML or about how to define metadata, because you can find labels which are these things here, like LOM string language, and the and the language, and you can find also the word title, and then you can find a title there is in French. This title is in French. So if you speak English, it's quite easy to have an idea about what is happening here and to understand what is being described in this piece of code. Okay. Next ones were information about the life cycle and also about metadata. And life cycle, inside life cycle, we can find the version, the status, and contribute. And in metadata, we have identifier, information about identifier, contribute, who has contributed in the metadata, the schema we are using, and also about the language. This kind of information, it's somehow to understand right now, but it's not really important at this moment of our course, because this is which this lecture really is part of a course. This is the first module of our course, so don't get very worried about this information. You will have further explanations later. And we can find a couple of examples at the left side of your screen. You have an example of the definition of life cycle, and at the right part you have an example about the definition of metadata. As I told you, I'm not going to go very deeper on defining, explaining every line of code here. Just if you want to put more effort into understand these examples, just download the slides and take a look and try to guess what's happening here. That will be a nice exercise. And if you have any doubts, you can ask me right now, or just use the email, contact me, and if me or some of my partners will kindly reply to you. Okay, next one is about the structure, about the technical structure. So here we have information about the format of the learning object, the size, which is the size in bytes, excuse me, the location, which is usually expressed as a URL, requirements, which you need for the learning object, for instance, about the operating system or about browser requirements, installation remarks, other platform requirements, and the duration. And here you have an example about the technical part of the profile. And well, as always, you can, it's easy to identify, for instance, the tag about requirements, and it says about things about the browser, about using Firefox, about that you need a plugin, the Flash Player plugin, yeah, Yes, as I just said, just try to take a deeper look, download the slide, try to take a deeper look, and try to guess what's going on in this piece of code. Okay, about the educational structure, we can find information about the interactivity type. What's the interactivity in the learning object? The learning object resource type, if it's a figure, a graph, a text, whatever. The interactivity level, which goes from very low to very high. The semantic density, which also goes from very low to very high. There's a vocabulary to be used here. The intended user role, teacher, learner, etc. The context, which could be to school, higher education, vocational studies, and so on. The typical age range, which for instance could be from 12 to 18, from 5 to 7, and so on. The difficulty, the typical learning time, the description about how the resource should be used, and the language, which is the human language of intended user. And here we have the example of this part of the application profile. Okay. The last ones, yeah, I think these are the these are not the last ones. We are in the six. Well, we have here rights and relation. Rights is pretty obvious. It's information about the rights, which with this information we can know if this learning object has any cost, and about the copyright and other restrictions, if it has it, and if the learning object has any copyright restrictions, we can define these descriptions restrictions, using the description field. Okay. And okay, the next one is relation, and here we define the kind of relation and the resource which has the relation, using an identifier and a description. And the identifier is the catalog entry we found in the first slide concerning the IEEE LOM metadata. Okay, so here you have another example for rights and relation. And now the last two parts are annotation and classification, which are also quite simple. Regarding annotation, we have the entity, the date, and the description. And regarding the classification, we have the purpose, the taxon path, the description, and keyword. Okay. And here you have an example of annotation and classification. Okay, I told you this a couple of times, but again, this is only an introduction to the metadata standard. Okay, so if you want to learn a little bit more, try to do an exercise. We're going to propose an exercise to you at the end of this lecture, and we are going to provide more webinars so you can join them. Our intention is to provide you the basic tools which will allow you to look for information and to practice with the metadata schema. Okay, because you will need to to practice if you really want to learn about how to use the IEEE LOM schema. Okay. Regarding the data types, okay, to complete all the information I have told you about in the previous slides, there are different data types. Data types, which go from free text, okay, like language strings, which are defined using the the code for the language and the strings, you can see N from English, and this is a string. Okay, date time, which is pretty obvious. Here we have date, and the time duration, which is expressed in this way. We also have character strings. We have undefined data types, and also vocabulary, which is, I think everyone knows what a vocabulary is, but if not, just ask and I will try to explain. Okay. So about vocabularies, just in case you know you need more information, vocabularies are a recommended list of values which are extendable. They excuse me, they are described in a resource. And the default vocabulary is called LOM version 1. An example of vocabularies used, one example could be the vocabulary used by Organic EduNet, which is an educational project related to learning resources from about organic agriculture. And these vocabularies are mainly based on the IEEE LOM 1s, while they also include vocabularies from the LRE Thesaurus version 3. Okay, the last part of this lecture is about application profiles. As I introduced previously, an application profile is a set of metadata elements, policies, and guidelines defined for a particular application. So, an application profile enrich the previous the IEEE LOM metadata. Okay, we can enrich, which means putting more information there, information which is required for a particular application. So an application profile defines an application appropriate set of properties in a public and communicable manner, and permits the building of loosely coupled systems that still offer powerful capabilities. We have regional which are widely used application profiles, like the UK LOM, which is the application profile for using LOM in the UK. We also have the one for Australia, the one for Norway. We have also one here in Spain. And we can also, we also have application profiles for a particular domain. For instance, regarding the project I have previously told you about, Organic EduNet, which is about organic agriculture, we have an application profile for this project, which contains additional information we need for describing the resources, these resources about organic agriculture. And of course, we have an ODS application profile, which is an application profile we made according to our researching purposes. Okay, there is a specific unit, a specific module, about the ODS application profile. So I'm not going to go deeper in this aspect. Just mention the very basics, and the very basics of the ODS application profile about the objectives is that in ODS we have several different metadata application profiles which are used by the various repositories integrated in ODS. For instance, Organic EduNet is one of the repositories integrated in ODS. And as I have just told you, Organic EduNet uses an application profile which is called the Organic EduNet application profile. Okay, and we need to integrate all the metadata application profiles used by the different repositories in ODS. So what we need is a unique ODS application profile. And in this way, having a unique ODS application profile will help us for better locating learning objects. Well, here you can see a quite old screen capture. You can notice it just by looking to the logo there. It's some kind of Christmas logo, but it's still useful. Okay, we have made a search regarding econometrics, and here we can find information about the repository, the granularity, the date, the contributor, tags, and there is more metadata here we cannot see right now. But the important thing here is that having this information, we can classify and offer better results when you make a search in the ODS portal. And most of the times, when you are looking for something in ODS and you don't find proper results, it's not because the searching engine is not working properly, but the problem is that usually the problem is that metadata resources are not well described. So properly describing metadata resources is very useful for us. So that's why that's also a good reason to start this series of lectures, of webinars, just to try to teach to as much people as possible about what metadata is and its importance, so we could improve ODS, because improving metadata is improving ODS. Okay, yes, as I told you, the ODS application profile, we will find the offered learning resources useful for the classroom. We will appreciate the cross-linguistic and cross-border use of content, perceive pedagogical benefits of the resources providers, facilitate automatic translation services, and it's also socially powered. So these kind of things are not directly included in the IEEE LOM, so that's why we make this new ODS application profile. Well, and here what we have is a screen capture of the metadata about a learning resource, which is called 3D printing. Okay, and well, you can see that we don't have a lot of information here about metadata. We don't have information about language. We only have some information about the typical age range, and there's just 3 tags, which are 3D printing, F1 contest, and salsa car. So if we just have this information, it's kind of hard for the ODS portal to provide something useful for the user. So once again, it's very important to have good metadata to find proper resources. Okay, sometimes we can infer the information by using other kind of techniques, for instance the automatic keyword extraction techniques and that kind of things, but having good metadata, I think it's essential. It's essential. And also having good metadata, if you are a teacher and you have your own resources and you want everyone to know about your resources because you think that they are pretty good, you will need to have good metadata. If you have good metadata, it will be much more useful to locate your resources. Not only for ODS, also for Google. Remember that we are using international recognized metadata standard for describing learning objects. Okay, so if this is your user profile, if you are a teacher, if now you are attending this webinar as a teacher, willing to learn how to describe your resources using metadata, believe me that it's a useful thing and that you should learn how to do this. Okay. So we propose an exercise to you, which is describe your own learning object using the LOM profile. Okay, you can try to do this exercise look for all the information you need in the internet. If you go to our portal, to the ODS portal, and then to the Content Providers Learning Academy, you will find some useful URLs there, and you can use them to have more information about how to describe a learning object using this standard. And of course, if you do this exercise, you can send it to us, and we will take a look and send our corrections. So you are invited to make this exercise. Okay, to finish this lecture, we are going to provide you an overview about the next module, which is called Metadata for the ODS project, in which we are going to introduce the ODS application profile for IEEE LOM. We are going to describe all the metadata elements, including conformance level. We want you to understand the key role of metadata in the ODS project, also about to assimilate the best practice in metadata annotation, be proficient in the use of metadata annotation tools, and be able to validate the conformance of given metadata record against the ODS application profile from a theoretical point of view. Okay, if you are willing to complete our proposed exercise, you will just need a text processor, okay? You don't need any kind of special environment, yeah? Just send it to us, and we will provide you feedback, okay? So, thank you very much. It seems that anyone has questions, but remember that my email is open for any kind of questions you may have in the future. Don't know, Roberto. I can't see any question here. Don't know if it's a problem of my of my screen, or it's just that there are no questions.
It seems there are no questions from the audience by now, but I have a question for you. You presented an example about looking for oranges.
Yeah.
That is an example about word sense disambiguation.
Yeah.
Is that the main benefit of metadata of this particular schema, or maybe are there any other other benefits?
Well, this is one of the main benefits, and when you try to explain what metadata is used for, it's a good way to make the audience to understand what's happening here. But I mean, we have seen that we have a lot of additional information there. For instance, information about the educational context, about, okay, this learning resource is suitable for kids from 7 to 10 years, and they should have this level of English, for instance. So, of course, there are other relevant and really relevant things in the application profile. Excuse me, in the metadata, IEEE LOM. So yes, it's not the only benefits, and we have other benefits which are as important as this one.
And I'm curious about word sense disambiguation. How do you achieve that? I mean, you can assign a tag to a learning resource, for instance, orange, but the disambiguation to choose a non-ambiguous tag, it depends on the user. Am I right?
Well, not always, because of course it depends on the system you have made, okay? But if you have information, you can make the system use that information to try to discern if the user is looking for a fruit or a color, okay? For instance, in this example, okay? Just in which we want to translate the different, we want to translate the word gato, and we don't know if it's cat or jack. So if we look at the description, just of the supposing this is a learning object, okay, we are translating some text inside a learning object. We are making an automatic translation of a learning object. We can go to the description, and if we find in the rest of the metadata that it's talking about animals, then we can infer that the most suitable translation will be cat and not jack. So this is not made up by the definition of the metadata itself, but by the use of the information in the metadata. But if we don't have any kind of information, we won't be able to try to discern this in this kind of situations. Don't know if I have explained it properly.
Yes, if I understand it correctly, the standard does not impose the requirement of using, for instance, gato, cat tool or cat animal, but you can build a classifier to analyze the context in which cat appears. So if in the context there are words such as animal or dog or so on, then you can infer that is cat, the animal.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. Thank you.
So, did you it seems like a very work-intensive task, the annotation of resources. Is there any way of automatically assigning tags to resources?
Well, we have tools to help humans to annotate resources, and also there are different kinds of systems to automatically annotate resources. Also, we have, for instance, tools as there's a tool called Kia, which helps to automatically extract key phrases from text. So yes, we have this kind of tools, but well, I cannot always guarantee that they work properly. So we can use them, but we have to supervise what's happening there. Okay, that's my experience. Maybe it also depends on the context, and these tools could work better depending on the context. Okay, but my experience is that you have to be cautious about using this kind of tools.
And I have another question. You spoke about Wikipedia. In your example, the user was looking for orange, and then she goes to Wikipedia, and then she disambiguates the search. And maybe it could be a good thing to use Wikipedia, the articles, the URL of Wikipedia, as a space of tags or as a space of concepts, so that in this way they would be non-ambiguous.
Yes, Wikipedia and more precisely DBpedia are used for these kind of things. Yeah. I think every one of us has looked for a term in Wikipedia, and we found just a message there telling us perhaps you refer to whatever, and shows a list of other contexts about the same word or the same phrase. So yes, Wikipedia uses this kind of technology, and we can use Wikipedia for this. But I think that this is more advanced. That it's more advanced concept that the ones we are going to provide in this lecture. But yes, we can, and we do. In some projects we do, because it's open.
Okay, thank you, David, for your answer. It seems that there are no questions from the audience, so we can close the webinar. Do you agree?
Okay, I agree. Thank you very much, and just say that if you are interested in these issues, please try to complete our exercise, send it to me, and you will get feedback. Okay? So, thank you very much.
Thank you, David, for your interesting presentation, and thank you, everybody, for your attendance. Please remember that you can replay the webinar in YouTube at any time. Thanks for joining us, and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.